Amazing. All right, we will get started. And if anyone's running a bit behind, they can jump on in. But uh, I guess first up, for those of you who I haven't met before or we haven't spoken, I'm Jess, one of the product managers here at AgriWebb, and I wanted to do a bit of a run through of some of the recent updates that we've done around grazing and included in the grazing add-on for all of our customers using the add-on. So uh, we'll in terms of agenda for today, we'll do a bit of a grazing add-on run through as a whole, see if you guys are across what's included, but just wanting to make sure that people are getting the most out of that. And then I'll switch over and do a bit of a demo and focus on the forecasting and scenario planning pieces that are new. And then we'll do a bit of a Q&A at the end. Thank you to those who have already submitted questions as you were registering for this webinar. Really appreciate that. And if you have any questions throughout the webinar, we'll aim to answer those if they're relevant at the time. Otherwise, we'll save them to the end and I can do a bit of a run through of any questions that come through. There should be for you guys a Q&A section at the bottom of your control panel. If you can't see that, feel free to just pop them in the chat. That's fine as well. And we've also got Isabel and Tom from the product team as well joining the call. So they will jump in and remind me to answer any of the questions as we go through. So I guess wanted to start off with what's a reminder of what's included in the grazing add-on. So really the main pieces that we're looking at today are around the rotational planning side of things, but then really main focus is on the stocking rate versus carrying capacity tooling and the forecasting scenario planning that we've got along with that. So a recap on the rotational planning side of things for those of you who maybe tried at the start or haven't used it for a little while. Really, we're looking at a way to set up all of your rotations in AgriWebb. So being able to come in, create a grazing plan based on whatever method you use. So that could be you're using your kilos of dry matter per hectare and wanting to utilize that to be able to suggest the grazing days available, or you might be using stock days per hectare or DSE days per hectare and wanting to use that sort of tooling. So basically, whichever way you do that, you can set that up. Just make sure that your settings are set up accordingly. So here you can see the kind of two different options that we've got based on your settings. So this is your kilos of dry matter per hectare, and that populates the grazing days available based on the feed on offer that you've recorded against the paddock, as well as the pasture growth rate and any target residual that you have set. And then we also have the options on the DSE days or LSU days per hectare side of things as well. So that's more focused on, I guess, pulling in both those DSE days per hectare that you've got across the paddocks, but also the rest periods that you're looking to target on each of those paddocks to make sure that you're leaving enough rest. So yeah, you can choose whichever option you need, and then come in, obviously select all of the different paddocks that you're looking to include in that rotation. It shows you the conflicts between either the rest period or other plans that you have set up, so that you can easily see, where there are those conflicts and where you might need to adjust, and you can kind of see how all of your different plans fit together. And you can also see on the map from a logistical perspective, you're able to kind of track where those different mobs are going. You can see all of your plans on the desktop, but also on the mobile app as well. As we know, plans change, there's we're seeing most people are adjusting their plans as needed as they go. So we wanted to make that sure that was super easy for people um, to adjust so that you weren't stuck to a plan and then it becomes out of date pretty quickly. So you can see here all of your different grazing rotations on the mobile app. All of those plan moves also show on the task list as well. If you're looking there, you'll see your next or upcoming moves that you can action. You can see the full plan details, and you can also see all of that information on the paddock dialogue as well. So if you click into the paddock, you can see when they're due to move out, when the next move into that paddock is, and you can action it from there. As I said, we really wanted to make sure that you could adjust plans on the go as much as possible. So here is an example of a mobile app movement record and a desktop movement record. And here I can come in if I'm moving a couple of days late or a couple of days early, I can come in and adjust that grazing period. So I could either reduce the entire rotation length or I can shift it either way to make sure that the whole rotation is staying the same length, but I'm just adjusting the days for this particular paddock. So you have that flexibility to be able to adjust it on the move rather than having to go back to your desktop and edit the plan as a whole. Same thing for if you need to be able to switch up which paddocks are involved. Paddock might be bogged, you might not be able to use it, or see things are going to need to change. So you might want to switch some paddocks around. You can do that by coming in and inserting a new paddock there or replacing the existing paddock with a different one if you need. So yeah, we're seeing about over 25% of the moves that are being done are adjusted on the go. So I guess that really just shows that obviously plans do change, and people are able to keep those plans up to date by adjusting on the go and making sure that their moves are nice and accurate. If you do have kind of more complex plans or you've kind of planned a certain distance ahead, but then want to go in and plan the next, say, 3 months, I'd suggest, go to your desktop and manage the plan as a whole. But if you're needing to make those individual tweaks on a move basis, you can do that on the go from your mobile app. And the other piece to call out is the grazing chart. So this populates from movement records. We are looking at the moment, this is just historical, and is also available on the performance plans, but we are looking to add in the plant grazers so that you can see all of those planned rotations on here as well in one centralized place. We've also added recently a bit more information around each of those grazers, so you can come in, so you see all of your rainfall data at the bottom here, but also see all of your entry, exit food consumption across each of those grazers on the grazing chart. You've also got the flexibility on here to be able to, see as much or as little as you need to be able to, which will be particularly useful once we get the future grazers in there as well. Cool. Well, I might switch over now onto the stocking rate versus carrying capacity report, which is new. So I'm going to demo this one. Just share the right screen. Cool. So all of you should now be able to see this new tab that we've got under grazing here. So if you're on your desktop, and you'll see grazing in the main nav now, and you're able to see the stocking rate versus carrying capacity report. So really this tool we've introduced based on feedback from producers not only using the add-on, but just generally using AgriWebb and wanting to be able to track their stocking rate against their carrying capacity at a property level as well as a block or paddock group level as well. So really the purpose of this is that high level trend of how you're tracking over time, both historically, and then I'll jump into the forecasting side as well. But really, it's that high level trend. How am I tracking to my property's benchmark or where I want to need to be sitting? And what stocking decisions can I make to make sure that I'm setting myself up for success moving forward, whether that's, taking opportunity of gaps that you have available, or whether that's destocking at the right time to make sure that you're not overutilizing. So here you can see we've got the historical view of your stocking rate to carrying capacity, and this is where you can come in, set up your benchmark as your first step. If you haven't been in here yet, I'd say that's the place to start. So you can come in here, basically look at your benchmark in either, LSU days per hectare per 100 mil or DSE days per hectare, or whatever stocking unit you use. You can come in and add that. So in this case, I've already got one set up, but I could also add an additional one if I want to be able to see that change over time. You can add multiple benchmarks over time. But to get started, get in there, get your baseline set up. If you haven't kind of got an idea of what that benchmark is, we do have some help content in there which kind of guides you through how to set that up. But really, it's just utilizing what's your average stocking rate, and then also what's your long-term average rainfall across the property, and then you can calculate your benchmark from there. If you don't get it bang on initially, that's fine. It can be adjusted, and you can kind of see over time what that benchmark actually is. If you're constantly sitting below it, then maybe that means that actually your benchmark is a little bit lower. Or if you're constantly sitting above it, but you're tracking well, then perhaps your benchmark is a little bit higher. So really, this report is showing when you're over that benchmark and when you're under that benchmark. So I might just turn off the rainfall data here just to simplify it a little bit. But essentially, you can see, okay, for this period here, we were tracking a little bit over that benchmark, maybe not too far, so maybe it was doing okay, but now sitting well below that in a better state. If you are looking at this and you're kind of like, oh, maybe my stocking rate doesn't look quite right, or my rainfall doesn't look quite right, that's where you can come in and have a look at this table of data down here, which is really just there to, I guess, help you understand where this information or where this trend is coming from, but also help to identify if you've got any missing data. So maybe you haven't got all of your historical rainfall in AgriWebb, so you might want to go in and add those historical records in. Perhaps you haven't kept all of your DSE values up to date, or there might be some missing movements and things like that in there that you might want to rectify to make that historical data a little bit more accurate. And so, yeah, this is looking historically, which is obviously helpful to understand where you were, but you obviously can't change the past. So that's where we wanted to make sure that we could bring in the forecasting and scenario planning side of things and ensure that you can kind of make those decisions as early as possible ahead of time before it's too late. So that's where we've got now the combined view as well as the forecasting view, which essentially just looks straight ahead. Here for the forecasting side of things, this is where you can come in, basically ensure that your long-term rainfall is set up correctly as kind of that first step. This will pull in all of your AgriWebb data that you've got in there to be able to set these long-term averages. If you've got other data that you're using outside of AgriWebb, feel free to override that information and put your own long-term averages in there. Or, if you've just started using AgriWebb or it's earlier days, then you might not have all of that historical data set up. So again, you can either override that, or you can also, now we've got a rainfall importer that you can utilize. So you might be able to, if you've got that data available, you can go in there and import those historical rainfall records, which will populate your long-term average more accurately here. But essentially, once you've gone in there and you're happy with your long-term averages, you kind of only need to do that once, and you can set and forget. And then the other piece to look at in terms of this forecasting side of things that we've introduced is your stock flow. So this is really where you can come in, plan for, the next 3, 6 months, up to 12 months ahead, and look at, okay, what's happening on farm? What sales do I have planned? What purchases have I got going on? When's calving? When's lambing? And enter in those key events that are happening on farm. So here you can see we've got a breakdown of sheep and cattle if you're running both, just to simplify that stock flow creation. And you can also switch between the number of head for each of the age classes or the DSE for each of those as well, if that's how you prefer to think. I'll leave it as head for now, just to keep it simple. But yeah, for example, I can come in here and go, okay, I know in November I'm going to be selling some cows, so I'm going to come in and put in a sale event of 200. You can see that I can put in all of these different transactions, so my purchases, my sales, any transfers on and off farm. If you are adjusting, that's the best way, so you don't have an adjustment record in AgriWebb, but transferring on and off farm is the best way to manage that movement of stock. The birth records in here as well, so you can either do that from the cow side of things and enter in your calving numbers here, and let's do an example of that. But let's say I'm also calving 200. If I sell some of them, you can put in your monthly death rate as well. And then here is just a reminder of what the DSE values are per age class per month. So that, you should be able to use the standard kind of most of the time. But if you are wanting to incorporate the LSU or DSE value for, say, lactation over time, you are able to come in and add those DSE values per month, so that you're able to make sure that that DSE or LSU is as accurate as possible. So I can save that, and here you can see for November, we've now got 200 calves that are being added onto my stock flow because of that birth record that I put in, and you can see that we're going down 200 because of that sale of 200 cows that I've entered. So basically, this stock flow is where you come in, put all of your baseline events that are happening on farm for the year, or as far ahead as you want to do some planning. One other thing to call out is this toggle here of show all the age classes. So I can turn that on, and basically, really, if you're purchasing in stock that you don't currently have on farm, you can come in and it'll show all those additional age classes. But to keep it simple, it will just show whatever you've got on farm currently. This saves automatically as you do it, so you don't kind of have to have to hit a big save button at the end. So once that's done, I can head back, and that has adjusted my forecast for the months ahead. And so here, that now I've got that baseline stock flow. This is really where I can come in and start putting scenarios in there as well. So here I've got my baseline, and over here I can come and create a new scenario. So you can see my base here. I'm going to come and put in a scenario where I'm going to reduce my expected rainfall. So here I can see, okay, I want to try and, let's say I'm expecting 50% of my average rainfall. I can come in here, move this slider up and down according to where you want to look at, and create as many scenarios as you need. So you might have a dry one, just use your baseline as your average, and then a maybe increased rainfall one for being optimistic. And you can look at how that's going to affect your trend line against your carrying capacity over time. So here you can see I'm now sitting well above that, my benchmark. So I want to look at, okay, well, I'm okay up until February, but at that point, then I want to try and look at what I can do to mitigate that risk. And so that's where you can come. Basically, you see the same stock flow sitting underneath the scenario here, and I can come in and adjust the numbers. So maybe it's looking at what I can sell early, what I can change to be able to adjust those stocking rate numbers so that they're sitting below the line. And so once I've set up that scenario, I can either just save it as a scenario and switch between those views, or if I, was getting a bit closer to, it was clearer that I was only getting 50% of my average rainfall, then I could look at, okay, I want to lock in those changes that I've planned as part of my scenario here, and I can update the stock flow directly. In this case, I'm just going to save it as a new scenario that I can switch between. And as you can see here, I'm now looking at, okay, what's going to be happening with my dry scenario. I can always go back to my baseline if I want to view that option as well. So once you've created those scenarios, you can just switch between those views and look at those different situations that you're thinking about and planning for, and edit and delete those as needed. So yeah, that's essentially the run through of the forecasting and scenario planning side of things. I will leave it up here in case there's questions that we need to show a little bit more for, but otherwise I will jump across to a few of the questions that we had submitted as part of when you guys were registering, just to make sure that I answer those for you as well. But one question that did come through a couple of times from a few different people was around if it was possible to have the forecasting tool enabled for different subsets of paddocks and different blocks. So at the moment, we've got a new tool around paddock groups on the historical mode. So that's something that I haven't showed up here, but basically there's a new drop down on the historical view where you can come in and manage paddock groups. And so here I can come in, add a paddock group. Let's say block 1, you might have different geographical blocks, you might have different country type, different soil type that you're wanting to be able to look at differently, and it might have different benchmark carrying capacity that you therefore don't want to average everything together. You want to be able to compare those different blocks. So here I can come in, you can group by block, color, land use. I think I've only got one block on this farm, but for example, I can come in and select all of my blue paddocks, choose those, apply a benchmark against that group of paddocks. So let me basically go back as far as I can and put in the benchmark, and I can also link in the various rain gauges. So because see, this report is driven off that 12-month rolling rainfall to be able to account for I guess that variability in rainfall and how we need to adjust to the rainfall that we've had. I can come in and select either a particular rain gauge for that area of my property or multiple rain gauges, and it will average them out. So I can come in and hopefully save that. Might have flagged something. Refresh. Might not have liked my paddock group. I did try and do the same thing before, so maybe it maybe it thinks that it already exists. But essentially, I can create that paddock group and then be able to look historically just at that paddock group and compare different ones. It would be great if whoever yes, I can see Jack's message in the chat, and I know Jack, you do use the have various paddock groups. It would be good if anyone else is using paddock groups or would need that sort of functionality. Maybe just message in the chat, and it would be good to chat about how we can improve the paddock group functionality, which it's now not loading for me. So it's always the law of demos. Let me reshare. But yeah, essentially at the moment it is pulling in paddock groups for historical stocking rate to carrying capacity. But for forecasting, we don't currently support that. So the main piece that we wanted to look at moving forward is how we manage different stock flows for those different areas of your property if you are doing different blocks, different paddock groups. So that is something that we definitely want to look towards. But at the moment, we just have it in there historically. So definitely keen to have a chat with people who are doing multiple blocks so that we can make sure that we get all of your feedback included there. I can see a few questions in the chat, so I will run through those. Is there any option currently or in the future the opportunity for our dashboard to provide our stocking rate in DDH per 100 mil, and also if using SIBO labs to have the farm average of grazing areas? Yes, good question, Jacinta. That is something that we do want to look to include and surface up on the dashboard. There's a few other projects that we've got at the moment happening around the dashboard and looking to, I guess, make it a little bit more useful and show some good insights there. So that is something that we are potentially looking to add onto the dashboard. Haven't necessarily considered the full SIBO Labs data, but yes, that is also something that we want to try and basically have the option to layer on your kilos of dry matter per hectare onto here as well. We have some thoughts around kind of more general feed budgeting that we want to introduce to kind of, once you see that overarching trend line, you can then look at, okay, what am I going to do about that more at a paddock level? How am I going to feed budget? How am I going to plan? Any update on when farm bot gauges will be linked to AgriWebb? Isabel, I might hand this to you.
Yes, hi Paul. I believe they already are linked. So if you're having an issue, I would chat to our support team because they should be grabbing your rainfall for you automatically. But if there's a specific area you're not seeing it, let us know and we'll figure out how to fix it.
Thanks, Isabel. Yeah, that definitely should be able to be linked. Also, reach out if that's not happening for you. Is there a report available to capture and display the average rest period between grazers over a given period of time? Yes, I think Jacinta, you had raised this when you registered. So let me show you how you can pull that one up. Just loading. Uh, so here on your grazing chart, that's the best place to go and see this information. So here you can come in and see your average day's rest, and that's looking at the rest period between uh, the paddocks. And so this is where you can come in and either see it per paddock, or you can also look across the property, and we've basically got the average um, sitting down here as well. I'd say the best way to also look at this is to group by particular land use as well. The moment we do include kind of some other different types of paddocks. So if you want to come in and look at just your grazing ones, for example, you can look at your grazing group and essentially scroll down to the bottom of that and you get a more accurate average rest period for those particular pastures. Thanks for the question, Jacinta. And Craig, can we link to pastures from space? Isabel as well. I might get you to jump in here.
We don't have an integration with pastures from space. I'm not sure if it's been requested before, but I'd be interested, Craig, if you want to reach out to us and let us know what data you're trying to get, like if it's the kilos of dry matter, like feed on offer or something different, let us know. But I think, yeah, you would just have to manually enter any sort of data that you're getting from your pastures from space account. Sorry, that probably wasn't a very helpful answer, Craig, but let us know. Yeah, so more so like your cover slash growth. So that might be pasture growth rate. So no integration currently. It would have to be like manual entry into AgriWebb. But we'll definitely take that down as some product feedback and add it to our feature requests.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks, Isabel. And thanks for the question, Craig. There was another question that came through ahead of time as well around will a new forecasting tool enable us to plan for different growth rates, rest periods, and residuals? Might have been yours, Craig, as well, Craig, or might have been someone else. But at this stage, the forecasting doesn't incorporate the pasture growth rate. That is something that we are looking towards to incorporate basically through the rotational planner to make sure that you can account for those different growth rates ahead of time rather than just needing to continually update it month on month. So yeah, appreciate that feedback. Unfortunately, at the moment, doesn't incorporate that one, but is something that we will be looking towards. If you're doing a growth rate, can you allow for nitrogen effect if added? Yes, we will incorporate that into the feedback. Thank you, Craig. One from Amy, reasonably new to AgriWebb, so I may have missed this, but is there a way to vary your stock numbers in your rotational planner, similar to what you can do in the stock flow of your stocking rate versus carrying capacity. You can see your backgrounding, so constantly changing stock numbers, especially during the Queensland dry season. So it'd be helpful to be able to vary these numbers as per planned and sell program. Great question, Amy. At this stage, you would just need to go into your plan, your rotational plan, and essentially edit the mobs that you're going to have on there. At the moment, the rotational planner just has basically whatever mobs you have allocated to that plan today. We do want to look at how these, I guess, scenarios can be incorporated into the rotational planner as well. So that potentially is something that would be appropriate there. But great question. At this stage, no, you just go in there and edit those numbers. But that's a great use case for having these scenarios apply to the rotational planner. Thanks for your question.
Jess, one question I get a few times is on this grazing chart. Could you just show us the column editing? A lot of people maybe don't know that you can edit columns, and there's often a lot of information in here.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, there are a lot of columns that we've got in here. Only a few are on there, by default when you come in to the grazing chart. So make sure that if you are looking for something in particular, you come into that columns section there and you're able to turn things on and off to be able to see as much or as little as you need, your grazing percentage, number of grazers, be able to really drill in and compare that paddock performance over the year. So yeah, good chart as well.
And then the last one, if you wouldn't mind, just you called it out before, but just showing people where they can import their rainfall now. Because obviously with the grazing chart and the stocking rate versus carrying capacity, like you can vary the gauges you're using. So it's becoming more and more important.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, you can either do that through the grazing stocking rate to carrying capacity report, or you can come into your rainfall records here and import your rainfall. And here you're able to essentially come in and upload a CSV file with all of your rainfall in there. So basically just have in the date, the number of mils, and the rain gauge that it's associated with, and then it will import all of those records. If you are doing that, historically, we kind of just recommend choosing a consistent time of the month to import that. So put in the date as the end of the month if you're putting in a total, just to make sure that it's as consistent as possible. You don't have to put in the rainfall, the specific day of the rainfall. It can be those monthly totals just to backdate all of that rainfall data. So yeah, much quicker now than going in and manually having to enter in all of those rainfall records. Amazing. I did actually just create a quick poll for those that are here. As I mentioned before, we do want to continue that to build out that functionality around the paddock groups. So I'm just going to put up a poll for a second in terms of it would be great to understand how many of you are running multiple paddock groups or multiple blocks on farm. And yeah, just to see the demand for that one as we look to introduce that from a forecasting side of things as well. So yes, looking like so far overwhelming majority, which is which is as expected. So yeah, as I mentioned, we've now obviously got that historically, but looking forward, we've got a bit more kind of planning to do around how we would implement that one. So I'll likely reach out to some of you who have said yes here, so that we can drill into that a little bit more. Amazing. Well, I will wrap it up there. If there's no more questions coming through, if you do have any last minute ones, feel free to drop them in the chat. Oh, there we go, just in time, Craig. Can I have multiple rainfall amounts for different blocks, i.e. farm located in different areas? So yes, that would be for those paddock groups that you set up, you are able to select the particular rain gauge or rain gauges that you have associated with that block so that you can basically make sure that your rainfall is accurate for that, that block and paddock group. Yep. Amazing. If you have any other questions from today, feel free to reach out to our support team and they'll pass it on to me or others in the team. But yeah, really appreciate you all jumping on. Hopefully you learn a little bit there about some of that new functionality. And as always, we're looking to continually improve. So any feedback that you have, please always share. But have a lovely afternoon, everybody, and we'll see you next time. Thanks, guys.